Tonight on CFTK-TV News, the Israel-Hamas war is causing tension in BC. Alberta is already preparing for their next fire season, and a recorded incident in a Las Vegas courtroom has garnered a lot of attention.
Northwest BC's only television news team. We are CFTK-TV News.
Good evening, I'm Cale Maslin, and here's what's making news in the Northwest and beyond it. A celebration that was taking place in the town of Smithers in order to break in the new year unfortunately went seriously awry. The celebration saw a bonfire explosion happen and resulted in 2 young people getting serious burns from the explosion, as well as 4 others dealing with mild to moderate burns of their own. But the 2 people with really bad burns were so injured that they had to get emergency transportation to a Vancouver hospital. In the local police's statement, this explosion occurred at a block party on 4500 Henry Road with around 30 to 40 people in attendance. They also divulged that the explosion's cause was likely due to something being dropped in the bonfire, but the RCMP did not confirm if they believed this explosion was an accident or if it was intentional. And speaking of Smithers, the leaders in the town are also currently seeking feedback from their fellow local community members on a certain subject. The subject in question is how they can improve childcare, since the shortage of local childcare spaces has reportedly been a topic of discussion for a while. Smithers did finish its own childcare plan back in 2021, but an upcoming project is looking to do its best to improve it as much as possible, which is why they created a feedback survey. The survey in question is currently available online at the Town of Smithers website, and it will be open until 4:30 p.m. on January the 8th. Residents can also give their thoughts on improvements in an in-person session at the Old Church on January 6th that will be held from 10 a.m. until 3 p.m. TransLink says its new R6 Scott Road Rapid Bus is now cruising the streets on what it calls the busiest bus corridor south of the Fraser. TransLink says the R6 is geared towards Surrey and Delta residents and Kwantlen University students who could expect to shave off a few minutes between their trips between Scott Road Station and the Newton Bus Exchange. The transit operator says the R6 can carry more riders than past services, as Surrey and Delta lead the way in growing ridership numbers in the region. TransLink says ridership on Surrey and Delta buses is now 16% higher than in 2019, and the new rapid bus will accommodate the growing demand. The Israel-Hamas war has sparked growing tension at UBC. A series of letters are calling on the university to take action, and now a respected physician instructor has resigned, alleging anti-Semitism and a toxic workplace. CTV's Penny Daflos has the details.
The campus, home to one of Canada's biggest medical schools, shows no signs of the friction growing with each month the Israel-Hamas war drags on. More than 200 UBC medical students signed a petition in November titled "A Call to Action on Gaza," urging the university to call for a humanitarian ceasefire. A draft copy circulating in Vancouver's medical community and obtained by CTV News, quote, does not condone the actions of Hamas in attacking Israeli citizens and taking hostages, and voices solidarity for Palestinians they describe as, quote, continually abused, traumatized, and killed by the settler state of Israel. In response, nearly 300 Jewish physicians, faculty, and students penned a letter slamming the petition and describing experiences of anti-Semitism and intimidation, accusing UBC of failing to make them feel safe on campus. The university's response was so lackluster that Dr. Ted Rosenberg, a clinical instructor at UBC and geriatrician, has resigned after 30 years of teaching, alleging UBC hasn't addressed anti-Semitism and polarization over the conflict, quote, creating a toxic work environment. There is considerable anxiety around this issue. Students who support the Palestinian people fear professional repercussions, while Jewish medical professionals worry about harassment and their personal safety. In an email statement, the Faculty of Medicine and the University of British Columbia say they've been clear that anti-Semitism or discrimination of any kind is completely unacceptable. They are committed to creating a safe and respectful environment for all community members. Rosenberg tells CTV News the university has reached out and he's encouraged by their discussion, but that his resignation stands until he sees meaningful steps to address anti-Semitism. BC's medical community, many of whom trained at UBC, are watching closely. Penny Daflos, CTV News, UBC.
The BC government has been hit with a fine of more than $700,000 for unsafe wildfire mitigation work. WorkSafe BC says inspectors near 101 BC found evidence of unsafe tree felling work. WorkSafe says its inspectors also found that the province, as the employer, hadn't properly verified tree fallers' certifications or actively monitored the work. WorkSafe says the fine was issued back in October, but updating its penalty database was delayed due to a staffing vacancy. Coming up next, a mom who killed her child died in prison. Welcome back. Just a few days after a BC trucking company was grounded, it's still operating in the province. An overpass strike was the latest in a series of costly infractions that prompted the province to suspend their fleet. But the company is free to bring in trucks from another province and carry on with business. CTV's Ben Milger reports.
Provincial enforcement officers did more than just kick the tires on at least 3 trucks outside Chohan Freight Forwarders Aldergrove headquarters, giving each a complete roadside inspection. The province suspended operations for the company's 65 BC-based trucks after one hit an overpass in Delta last week while carrying an oversized load. It is the 6th time in 2 years a Chohan truck has hit an overpass. The 3 trucks inspected by officers Wednesday are registered in Alberta, giving the company an apparent loophole to beat BC's legislation meant to crack down on overpass strikes. Opposition MLAs want the province to find a way to make suspensions more enforceable.
Much better coordinated across border regulations and registration of trucking companies would go a long ways to addressing this kind of a loophole.
Nobody answered the door at Chohan's warehouse on Wednesday.
Sunny Chohan is not available.
And voicemails were not returned. The United Trucking Association is calling on the province to bring in a training program for shippers and truckers that handle oversized loads.
It's not only to be implemented only to the truckers, it needs to be implemented onto the shippers and to the people who are loading those trucks.
The Ministry of Transportation says the responsibility for measuring load heights ultimately lies with drivers. It would not promise to implement more training requirements, something last done in October 2021. After thorough bumper-to-bumper inspections, officers with the Commercial Vehicle Safety and Enforcement Unit allowed the drivers of all 3 Chohan trucks with Alberta plates to carry on their way. Ben Milger, CTV News, Aldergrove.
A Surrey woman serving a life sentence for killing her 8-year-old daughter 10 years ago has died in prison. Now, Lisa Batstone's ex-husband, the girl's father, says that the death brings a sense of relief. CTV's Mary Cranston reports.
Get set, go.
Before her murder in December of 2014, 8-year-old Tegan had her whole life in front of her.
This murderer stole 70 years of Tegan's life.
Lisa Batstone, Tegan's mother, was serving a life sentence after being found guilty of killing her.
I smothered her while she was sleeping.
You smothered her while she was sleeping?
She appealed her second-degree murder conviction, arguing her mental health issues were not given adequate weight. The BC Court of Appeal unanimously dismissed her case. The Correctional Service of Canada now saying Batstone died in custody at the Fraser Valley Institution in Abbotsford on Monday. It's not clear how she died, the agency only saying the circumstances of her death are being reviewed.
I certainly don't mourn the death of a child murderer, right, if I'm being blunt. But it does open up the wounds and the reality that, Tegan is dead regardless of what happened to the person who murdered her. And we will never get the joy of that beautiful 8-year-old girl, and those brothers will never get their sister back. So there's no joy to be found.
But there is relief, Tegan's father says, as the family now doesn't have to worry about further appeals and the possibility of parole.
There won't always be the asterisks of when will her killer be freed? What risk will that pose to our family? So it's hard, but there is an element that the future is safer for us now.
A chance to properly mourn the joyful child taken from them far too soon.
Alberta's 2023 wildfire season was one that broke a lot of records, and dozens of those fires from that period of time are still burning now. Now, as CTV's Amanda Anderson reports, fire officials are already doing prep work for what could easily end up being another busy fire season.
Conditions in the spring of 2023 contributed to one of the worst wildfire seasons in our province.
Spring lasted 2 days. And it was that dramatic swing that caused the fires to get going, and you couldn't put them out. There was no moisture there.
1,088 fires were recorded last year. 61% were human caused, while 35% were caused by lightning.
We had a lot of significantly large wildfires that were burning in multiple locations across the province. We had to call in international support.
The start of a new fire season is still months away, but there are concerns emerging. Senior climatologist David Phillips says the fall is typically when the ground gets a moisture recharge, something not happening in most of Alberta.
So I would say generally, if you look at the last 90 days, it's been a vast majority of Alberta has less than 80% of what the precipitation should be.
He says the warm temperatures are also sucking moisture out of the ground.
We will probably be entering the wildfire season with an elevated wildfire risk, especially in the northern parts of the province.
Crews will also start a new season with 63 fires that continue to burn from last year.
We typically get a handful of them every year, but 63 is a lot for us to monitor. So we want to make sure that people are doing their part to prevent wildfires.
Snow and lots of spring rain is what's needed to prevent a repeat of last season.
There's a tendency for El Nino springs to be drier than normal. What this one will bring, I can't tell, but if the past is a guide to the future, then we could see that there doesn't seem to be any relief in sight.
Alberta Wildfire will have crews in place by April 15th, earlier than usual, to deal with whatever the season holds. Amanda Anderson, CTV News, Edmonton.
Turning to tonight's weather, the North Coast is likely to get a few showers, and it's low at 5 degrees. The Terrace-Kitimat area is supposed to see flurries and/or rain showers, and it's low down at 0 degrees. And the Bulkley Valley and Lake District's projections call for a chance of flurries, with its low all the way down at minus 11 degrees. On the North Coast, the upcoming week will see pretty much mostly rain, flurries, and snow, with a little sun mixed in and the high going from 5 to 1 degree. In the Terrace-Kitimat area, their week should see almost all snow, flurries, and clouds, with also a little bit of sun in there, as well as the high bouncing between 1 and minus 6 degrees. And in the Bulkley Valley and Lakes District, the week for them should begin with mixed sun and clouds, before going back to all clouds plus snow and flurries, and the high moving between minus 3 and minus 10 degrees. Checking out the highways now, visit Drive BC for the latest and up-to-date conditions, and as always, drive safe out there. On Highway 16, there is slippery sections, fog patches, compact snow, utility work, and road maintenance, and the Usk Ferry is out of service and the cable car is in effect. On Highway 35 and 118, both have some slippery sections too. Highway 37 has some slippery sections as well, while also having compact snow as well as bridge maintenance and a vehicle incident. 37A has maintenance and compact snow, some fog patches on the Nishka Highway, and the Telegraph Creek Road has slippery sections with compact ice. And this is what the roads were looking like this afternoon around the region from the view of the province's highway cams. Still to come, a British teen has become a darts sensation. Welcome back. This winter's best meteor shower peaked overnight, and if you were lucky enough, you caught a glimpse of some of the bright lights. But if you didn't, CTV's Allison Bamford has more reasons to keep your eyes on the skies this year.
The first meteor shower of the year is reaching its peak and could bring more than 100 bursts of light shooting across the sky every hour.
Meteor showers are just little bits of dust hitting the upper atmosphere and they're turning into shooting stars. Best that you get away from city lights because they're pretty faint.
The quadrantids are one of 3 major meteor showers that take place each year. followed by the Perseids in August and the Geminids in December.
The quads really are worth staying up for because of the intensity of the shower.
But that's just the tip of the iceberg. Experts say this year's biggest astronomical event is expected April 8th. A total solar eclipse will pass through Mexico, the United States, and 5 Canadian provinces, including the Niagara region, Montreal, and the Maritimes.
You notice the temperature go down, you notice like flowers closing up and birds quieting down like they're about to fall asleep, and animals will think it's nighttime.
It's a new day in space exploration.
It's not just a big year for us on Earth. In October, NASA has plans to explore one of Jupiter's largest moons, Europa, to search for signs of water and life. And Japan is sending spacecraft to investigate the moons of Mars. But many are paying close attention to the launch of Artemis 2, a 10-day mission slated for November that will send 4 astronauts, including Canadian Jeremy Hansen, around the moon.
We're in this golden era of space exploration. There's all this technology that we didn't have before, and it feels like every year we make a new discovery that leads us to want to discover more.
And experts say 2024 won't be any different. Allison Bamford, CTV News, Regina.
What happened at a sentencing hearing in a Las Vegas courtroom is a moment for the history books. A man being sentenced for battery launched himself over the bench at the judge, violently attacking her. ABC's Aaron Katersky has more on that story.
Overnight, a judge attacked in a Nevada courtroom. Chaos erupting moments after what appeared to be a calm sentencing. Deober Redden, a repeat offender, had pleaded guilty to attempted battery with substantial bodily harm, but argued to Judge Mary Kay Hothus he did not deserve another trip to prison.
I feel like I should be given a shot because I'm in a better place than I was.
The judge reminded Redden of his lengthy criminal record.
3 felonies, a gross, 9 misdemeanors, multiple DVs. Got a lot going on, sir.
Still, he asked for leniency.
I feel that, I shouldn't be, sent to prison for a second time.
But the judge denied his request for probation.
I appreciate that, but I think it's time that he gets a taste of something else because I just can't with that history. In accordance with the laws of the state of Nevada, this court...
Moments later, Redden leapt over the defense table and the bench, landed on top of the judge, and sparked a brawl with court officers and attorneys. Courthouse officials telling ABC News Judge Hothus experienced some injuries and her condition is being monitored. The marshal sustained injuries and has been transported to the hospital.
Judges, in my view, many of them feel vulnerable, and rightly so. I think this case will bring to light the whole idea of how vulnerable judges are in their own courtroom.
A fearless British teen has burst onto the sports scene, darting to the top of his game. He's quickly becoming a star, breaking records in a fast-growing sport that you've probably played before, but maybe never watched on TV. CTV's Bill Fortier reports.
Luke the Nuke. Don't let the facial hair fool you. Luke Littler is only 16, and he's taking the world of darts by storm.
I know I've got a good chance, and I know in myself I've got a good feeling that I can go all the way now.
Littler became the youngest player ever in a World Darts Championship final after beating a former world champ in the semis.
There is no sign of this teenage dream coming to an end.
He's become a huge fan favorite, receiving messages of good luck from his beloved Manchester United soccer club, and these rugby players from Littler's favorite club even came to London to support him.
Never in a million years I think he'd get this far, but you can see the raw talent in him.
He's such a talent, and it's been nothing but great stuff from him every time you see him pick up a set of darts.
Tristan Dove is a former Canadian national youth champion. He says the buzz around the young superstar's success is good for the game.
I'm hoping that we see a lot more kids actually start coming through to youth leagues and them building themselves back up again.
When Littler was littler, he already had a knack for the game, playing with a magnetic set as a toddler.
You're going to get me a 180?
Obviously, all kids love football. They want to be a professional. Not everyone gets the opportunity to be a footballer, so I chose darts, and it's all paid off.
Members of his home club in the small English town of St. Helens say his talent was always evident.
He was averaging stupid averages that you should be like 16 to 20 years old, but he was doing it at 10, so he was special then.
You could definitely see what everyone's saying about a natural talent.
He lost the final to number 1 ranked Luke Humphreys.
But right now, the world of darts belongs to these two.
A setback for the 16-year-old rising star, but he has an entire career ahead of him, and already Littler is bigger than he could have imagined. Bill Fortier, CTV News, Edmonton.
And now we turn our attentions to the stock market. The Canadian dollar is up 1/100th of a cent. The price of gold is up $7.20. Oil is down 51 cents. Natural gas is up 15 cents. Aluminum is down $23. In Toronto, the TSX is up 52.77 points. The Venture Index is up 1.49. In New York, the Dow Jones is up 10.15. And NASDAQ is down 81.91. Still ahead is the latest ringside reports on the Vancouver Canucks. Welcome back. The Vancouver Canucks are in St. Louis tonight, where they will take on the Blues. The game comes on the heels of a big win at home against the Senators in front of Wayne Gretzky and a famous friend. Here's Cam Mitchell with this week's ringside report.
The Vancouver Canucks played their first game of 2024 on Tuesday night in Vancouver in front of the great one, the owner, and a guy who wants to be a rock star. It made quite a photograph, but I digress. If you didn't see the game and were wondering how it went, pretty good. It all started with an Ian Cole goal just 2 minutes 14 seconds into the game. It was actually his first goal in more than a year. But that opened the floodgates of what would be a first period filled with firepower. Pia Suter scored about 10 minutes later. Then in rapid succession, Elias Pettersson made it 3-0. Less than 30 seconds later, JT Miller made it 4-0. And finally, Pettersson scored his second of the night,
Pettersson one-timer, deflected in off the Ottawa defenseman.
giving the Canucks 5 goals in the first period. The Sens would try and make it a game. Vladimir Tarasenko scored a couple in the third to make it 5-3.
Scores his second of the period.
But Pia Suter would score again, giving the Canucks a 6-3 win. After the game, head coach Rick Tocchet explained that he's happy with the win, but not the game overall.
We didn't play the right way. Hey, take the 2 points, but it's a learning lesson for us. I did not like our 40. I hope the guys didn't, but hey, we won the game. Love our first period, so that's basically my assessment of the game.
The Canucks now find themselves tied for second in the entire league with the New York Rangers. This is ahead of a monster 7-game road trip that starts Thursday. Now, can they build on a memorable night at home and a photograph? It's worth a second look. Cam Mitchell, CTV News, Vancouver.
BC United MLA Eleanor Sturko says she and other lawmakers got an unwelcome Christmas gift this year from local drug activist Daniel Larson. Sturko says she was offended to receive a Christmas package containing psilocybin mushrooms and a cocoa leaf, which Larson offers at local dispensaries. Sturko says Larson sending drugs through the mail to elected officials is a publicity stunt meant to start a dialogue on drug legalization. Larson says he's aware that sending out the packages could result in charges, but he says he'd then launch a defense on constitutional grounds. That is all of our news for now. From all of us here at CFTK-TV News, I'm Cale Maslin, and thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.